Did you know that sometimes when you watch a movie, you aren't actually seeing the entire frame that was filmed? That's because it gets cropped. There are two common terms that are thrown around in relation to this: open matte and pan and scan. But what exactly are they? My name's Callum, and I'm a filmmaker who makes content about film technology and history. So if you want to learn more about the tools and formats behind the movies you love, consider subscribing. In this video, I'm going to explain both of these processes, and I'll also take a look at what makes them different. Let's get started. First, it's important for us to go over a few different types of 35mm film. Here we have regular 35mm. It captures an image on this part, leaving some extra space for the soundtrack. Next, we have Super 35. It removes the sound, allowing for a larger image to be captured. 35mm film can also produce pictures in different heights, which are marked by the perforations. Perforations, or perfs, refers to the sprocket holes used to move the film through a camera or projector. Typically, 35mm captures an image that is 4 perforations high, but there are also variations that are 3 and 2 perfs. Now, since we've explained that, let's take a look at open matte. For this example, I'll be using Super 35 film that is 4 perforations high. When an image is captured, it uses the entire frame, creating a picture that has an aspect ratio of 1.33 to 1. This means that the width of the image is 1.33 times the height. But then, when the movie is shown, it has the top and bottom matted. Matting refers to a black frame placed over parts of the image to change its aspect ratio. Typically, this would be either to 1.85 to 1 or 2.39 to 1. 3perf film can also be matted to a different aspect ratio as well. With film projection, these would normally be a soft matte, which means a device called an aperture mask is used to block a portion of the image. A hard matte can also be used, which is when it's added to the film itself. Movies that are shot on film and then projected digitally typically have these areas cropped out. And that brings us to open matte, which is when the matting gets removed, showing the entire picture that was filmed. This could only be the soft version, since the hard one is baked in and cannot be changed. Shooting movies this way became popular in the 1980s and 90s. This was because at the time, TVs looked like this, with an aspect ratio of 1.33 to 1, also known as 4:3. So by shooting a movie on 4perf Super 35, it allowed the film to be matted for the cinema, but the home video release could be open matte. This was sometimes the whole of the image or just a portion, depending on what the filmmaker wanted. Next, we'll take a look at pan and scan. Occasionally, movies are shot on what is called an anamorphic lens. This squeezes an image with a 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio onto 35mm film. Typically, this would be regular 35mm with extra space left for the soundtrack. The picture would then be de-squeezed during projection. As you can see, when a movie was shot like this, it had no extra space above or below to create a 4:3 image for television. So instead, they would crop off the sides, and if necessary, add a pan across the frame to change the focus of the shot. This is what is called pan and scan. It received a lot of criticism from filmmakers. This was because it eliminated a lot of information from the image and could potentially compromise their vision. Open matte, however, didn't receive the same kind of backlash. This was because of the difference in framing. With pan and scan, this was the entire image intended to be seen by the filmmaker. So when part of that gets removed, it can have a dramatic effect on the story, especially if key information gets cut out. With open matte, this is the entire image intended to be seen. So when the picture was reframed for 4:3, it was adding, not subtracting. Still a compromise since the intended aspect ratio was changed, but a better option than pan and scan. Now that we have televisions that use the wider 1.78 to 1 aspect ratio, also known as 16:9, neither of these processes are as necessary. One famous recent example, however, was Zack Snyder's version of Justice League. The movie was shot using 4perf Super 35 film. The intention was to use the 1.33 to 1 frame to create a 1.43 to 1 version that would fill an entire IMAX screen. This could be done because the aspect ratios are so similar. Regular movie theater screens and home releases would have cropped or matted the image to 1.85 to 1. Unfortunately, Zack Snyder's version of the film was never shown in theaters, but when it came to HBO Max's release of the film, he decided to keep it in the open matte 4:3 version. And that's the difference between these two processes. If you enjoyed this video, consider checking out this one here, where I compare two popular aspect ratios. Thanks for watching.